Hello everyone, this is Florian, and today's video is about the built-in enumerate function. So let's start by opening up a new REPL session. In this video I'm specifically using bpython for a little bit more syntax highlighting. And before we have a look at how to work with the enumerate function, let's answer the question why we need this function. Suppose we have a list, let's call it names, and inside of this list there are a bunch of names. So let's say Mariah and David and Lisa, and we go with Florian. All right, so this is our list, our names list. And what we can do is we can iterate over this list. So full name in names, and then print each name on a new line. But what if we also want to print the index of each name? So something like first Mariah, second David, third Lisa, and fourth Florian. And this is exactly where the built-in enumerate function comes into play. So we can write something like full name, or for index, comma name in names, in enumerate names. And then we can print, let's use an f string here. First print the index, then a colon, then we print the name, and that's all. And if we run this, and we see that we now have 0 Mariah, first David, second Lisa, and third Florian. And we can adjust this to start with a different number, so full idx, comma name in enumerate names, and we start at, let's say, the number 1. And then again print f string idx name, and that looks pretty good. All right, so what's actually happening here? So the enumerate function takes an iterable. This is the only required argument. So enumerate, and now we need to supply an iterable. This can be a list as we use it right here, but this can also be a set, a dictionary. It can be a tuple, or yeah, in essence, any other object that implements the iterable protocol. All right, so what does the enumerate function return? An enumerate object. This is basically a generator which yields not only the elements as usual, but it yields tuples where the first element is the index returned by enumerate, or let's not call it index, the number returned by enumerate, and the second element is the element itself, so the element coming from the iterable that we supply to the enumerate object. And to see what's actually happening here, we need to consume the enumerate object first, and we can do that in various ways. One way is to loop over it. A second way is to pass it to the built-in list function, which turns it into a list. So list enumerate, and we want to use the names list that we created before. And as we can see, we not only get the elements back from the names list, so Mariah, David, Lisa, and Florian, but we get a list of tuples back where the first element inside of the tuple is the number returned by the enumerate function, and the second one is the element itself. As I said, we can supply any iterable, which means that we can also supply set. So let's say something like, now we turn into a list again, enumerate, and now I want to supply a list, a set, and this set can be basically a set of numbers, so 1, 5, and maybe 3, and we need to close everything, and same thing again, iterate over all the elements inside of the set, and then map the numbers inside of the set to the corresponding number returned by enumerate. And one last thing that I want to showcase here is we can also do this with a dictionary. So suppose we have a dictionary and call this one cities, and what it maps is it maps country names like Germany to their capital cities like Berlin, and maybe it's, let's say France is Paris, and let's go with the last one as England, and map it to London. All right, that's and we can supply this to the enumerate function as well. So enumerate, and now supply the cities dictionary. And what's happening here, so by default, if we only supply the cities dictionary without calling a method on it, then the keys are yielded by default, which means that if we execute it now, we see first the number inside of the tuple, and secondly the corresponding key. And what we can do as well is call the items method on the cities dictionary, which means that it yields a tuple where the first element is the country where the city is located in, and the second element is the capital city itself. And as this is yielded, this is the element, means that we get now nested tuple. So we have a list of tuples where each tuple has two elements. The first element is the number returned by enumerate, and the second element is a tuple as well. So this is the element returned by cities.items. And in essence, it consists of two elements. The first one is the country, and the second one is the country's capital city. All right, so that's all for today. Stay curious and keep coding.